Last time we talked about gerund phrases, and today we're going to take those gerund phrases and use them for a different purpose. To begin, I'd like you to take a look at this image. I want you to fill in this sentence. The burglar is blank right now. So just write down 4 or 5 things that complete this sentence. Okay, let's try a few of these. So, what's he doing right now? Is holding a crowbar. Is ready to burgle. Okay? Burgle. Burgle. Okay. Okay, do then what?
The burglar is wearing his shirt inside out right now.
Ah, the burglar is wearing his shirt inside out right now. Is wearing black right now. Is breaking into a house right now. Is staring at the metal what? At the metal stick. At the metal crowbar. Is stealing a bike right now. Is holding a flashlight. Okay. All right. First, before we move on, notice that these could still be gerund phrases. With our last one, blank is fun, holding a crowbar is fun, wearing a shirt is fun, breaking into a house is fun, all these things. They'd still work with the sentence that we use for gerund phrases, except for ready to burgle. But the others are all verb plus ing with an object or a prepositional phrase, a group of words that are acting like a noun before when we were doing gerunds, but today we're going to talk about how we can use these phrases as adjectives. Look at this sentence or these sentences. All right. Number 1, the burglar came and held a flashlight and gripped a crowbar and crept up to the house and snuck quietly toward the window and got ready to break in. All right, then this one, holding his flashlight, gripping a crowbar, the burglar crept, sneaking quietly toward the window, getting ready to break in. Raise your hand if you think number 1 is better. Raise your hand if you think number 2 is better. Okay, why? What is it about number 2 that's better? So the tilting of your head and your intonations telling me that the and is repetitious and boring. And there's also something about the and that's sequential, when this might not necessarily be sequential. It might be all of these things are kind of happening at the same time. You could write this another way. The burglar came and did this. He did this. He did that. He did this. He did that. And the repetition of that subject he, just like the repetition of the conjunction and, might do the same thing, being repetitious, and draw your attention away from the meaning of the word and toward just extra grammatical words that don't really add anything to the scene. Whereas this one, it's condensed. You'll notice that it's a little bit shorter than the other one, but it packs the same information into it. And just something about the way that we read books. Having a bunch of these phrases in a row can create a sort of rhythm that almost adds suspense. All right. Well, these phrases, you'll notice, all of them are verb plus ing with an object or prepositional phrase, as we've been discussing. But in this one, they are not acting like nouns, right? Holding his flashlight allowed him to see. It's not doing that. This phrase of holding his flashlight is not doing something. It's describing something. What is the phrase holding his flashlight describing? Who or what is the thing that is holding his flashlight? Burglar, right? What kind of burglar? A holding his flashlight burglar. A gripping a crowbar burglar. A sneaking quietly toward the window burglar. A getting ready to break in burglar. All of these phrases are acting like adjectives describing burglar. Okay. And this is how you construct sentences using these. You have one independent clause, the burglar crept. And then you have as many of these formerly gerund phrases, now participle phrases, attached to this independent clause, offset by commas. And you can stack these forever. Okay, we're going to take a look at how to do this. For each of the following, consider the instructions and write a new sentence containing at least one participle phrase. Underline the participle phrase. Okay, so you're going to practice doing this. You have one sentence that you won't modify, this, or you won't change this at all. It's just, George pretended to get a message. That will remain the same. But this sentence, you will transform, you'll turn it into a participle phrase to describe how or why George is doing what he's doing. Okay? So our sentence is still, George pretended to get a text message, but now George did this to hide from the eye contact of his old boss. You'll find something that you can turn into a verb plus ing. In this case, the verb hide. Hiding. How hiding? Hiding from the eye contact of his old boss. You'll take that whole thing, offset it from the independent clause with a comma, and you're left with a sentence that now sounds like it could belong in a novel. Hiding from the eye contact of his old boss, George pretended to get a text message. Okay, so I want you to do this for these 5 sentences. All right, go ahead. Listening to my favorite music, I tapped my foot the whole way, or the whole drive home. How does that look? Yes, where? After music. And this is essential. In some sentences, if you don't put that in there, it could change the whole thing. Like, you can have these participle phrases before the independent clause or after the independent clause. What if you did this? I tapped my foot the whole drive home listening to my favorite music. Well, if you don't put the comma there, it almost sounds like your home is the thing that's listening to your favorite music, and you're just tapping your foot for whatever reason, right? So offsetting the participle phrase with the comma is important. By the way, I should add that if you're writing participle phrases in order to modify an independent clause, you've got to be careful. If any of those participle phrases are complete sentences by themselves, then you will have accidentally created a run-on, and the universe will collapse. Looking at the horizon, the sun cast pinks and yellows across the sky. Okay, this is grammatically correct. The comma's in the right place. This is okay. But if you write it this way, it means that you're not looking at the horizon. It means that the sun is looking at the horizon as it casts its own pinks and yellows across the sky. If that's what you meant, like it's a children's story about the sun and what it's doing as it travels across the sky, that's okay. But that's what it means now. You could also say, setting on the horizon, just take it as it is. The sun did this. That would also be correct. Comma, I stuffed my dirty clothes under the bed. Perfect. And it sounds much better than the original, right?
Whipping wildly in the wind, the flag looked like a comma. The flag looked like it would be torn away from the pole.
Very good. And much better than the original. Perfect. Number 5.
To finish the vegetables, comma, he ate one last broccoli or head.
Okay. So this is grammatically correct, But this is not a participle phrase. It's a prepositional phrase. It's actually an infinitive phrase, but you have a verb and you have a preposition to in front of it. To do this, comma, he did this. Which, again, that's correct, but it's not what we're working on right now. To make this into a participle phrase, you need a verb plus ing as the very first word of this. So you could say finishing the vegetables, or you could say doing his best to finish the vegetables, comma, and now this verb plus ing and whatever follows is describing he as he performs this action, to give more description of it, to give a reason for it, that sort of thing. And you could put it after the sentence as well. He ate one last broccoli floret, finishing the vegetables.